Hey, y'all. I'm back. Y'all, welcome back to Dr. Cece Says. This is the first one that I've done in over 6 months. And in case you don't remember, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. So if y'all are in the virtual building with me right now, drop hey, hello, hi, what it do, whatever you got in the chat to let me know that you're here. If you are watching the replay, drop hashtag replay in the chat so I know that you've been here. Okay. Now, y'all, I told you that it's been like a little bit over 6 months since I've done Dr. Cece Says. And that was because I had a major surgery back in October of 24. And, surgery went well, actually went better than the surgeon thought it would go. So thank God for that, right? And actually, recovery went better than we thought it was going to go. So recovery was about 8 weeks or so. And how many of y'all know that when you have something like a major surgery and you go through a 8 week recovery, that the surgery and the recovery is not just about your physical healing. So, for my folks out there, my Christian folks, my church folks, how many of y'all know that surgery, recovery, even though it definitely does something for you physically, God doesn't take you through stuff just for the physical. Most times, if you're going through something major, you're going through it for your mental health. You're going through it for your spiritual health. You're going through it to strengthen your walk with Him. And y'all, that's exactly what happened. So I see hubby is on. Hey, hubby, thank you for always supporting. All right. So everybody else, if you just dropped in, I see I got some folks on Facebook. Looks like I might have a couple of folks on LinkedIn. Y'all drop hey in the chat for me, so I know you're here. Okay. So, like I was saying, had a major surgery, 8 weeks of recovery, give or take a couple of weeks. And y'all, that's where this idea, or for me, the beauty of joy came in, right? During this recovery period, I got to learn a lot about joy and how having joy is really non negotiable. So, just like I'm sure y'all done heard me say, my peace is non negotiable, my rest is non negotiable. Y'all, my joy is non negotiable. Hey, Sarah Pam, good to see you on. Yeah. So, y'all, let's talk about joy. Let's talk about joy for a little bit. Um, there are a lot of definitions for joy, but I want to share one with y'all tonight that's it's kind of been sticking with me. Okay. So the definition that we're gonna use for joy tonight, it's a deep, abiding sense of contentment and peace that often exists regardless of circumstances. Okay. A deep, abiding sense of contentment and peace that often exists regardless of circumstances. So, y'all, joy is deep within. It's something that is not shaken by what's going on around you. Joy is what's happening on the inside of you. And as I was researching joy a little bit more, yeah, for those that know me that's on here, and I see Sarah Rhonda on here. Hey, Sarah. And I see my sis on here. Hey. So y'all that know me, y'all know I like alliteration. And so as I was studying this, there was some phrases that came up that I wanted to share with y'all tonight. So one of them is joy is rooted within while happiness is reactionary. Okay, joy is rooted, happiness is reactionary. Y'all, joy is not based off of what we see happening around us right now. And joy will actually confuse other folks. Joy will sometimes confuse us because when our circumstances say that we should have our head bowed, we should be fearful, we should be crying, we should be somewhere in a corner, balled up. Because we have joy, we are standing with our heads held high. We are smiling. We are bravely and courageously walking out the purpose that God has given us. So even when your circumstances look like you ought to be somewhere hiding, joy will make you pop out. Joy will make you lean into the light that you get from God. Now, I want to give this disclaimer, y'all, for the people that might be watching that don't know me. I'm a King's kid. I am Southern Missionary Baptist, right? So I a lot of times will refer to God and refer to Jesus and refer to the things that God has done for me. That's my truth. Okay. Whatever your truth might be, you lean into that. Okay. But my truth is that Jesus came, he died, he rose all for me, right? Just for me. And y'all, I got joy in Jesus. So for my folks on here who, you might be feeling the same way, drop a me in the chat. If you know you got joy in Jesus, drop me in the chat. All right. So yeah, I want to stay here a little bit on the joy versus happiness piece because I think sometimes we get those two things confused. Okay. A lot of people will use them interchangeably and they are not interchangeable. All right. Again, happiness is a moment. Y'all, joy is a movement, right? Joy is rooted deep down on the inside. Happiness says, someone did something nice for me. Things are going well, bills are paid, people on the job acting right, kids in the house acting right, hubby, wife, whoever, they acting right. So I am happy, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with happiness, okay? But when you have joy, joy shows up even when happiness can't show up. So Joy says, okay, although it's stuff going on in our country, it's stuff going on in the world, it's stuff going on in our cities, it's stuff going on in our churches, it's stuff going on in our households. I can still have joy. I can still rest in Jesus. I can still walk out my purpose with a smile on my face, y'all, right? Because I have joy. I have that deep contentment from the definition, right? I have that peace. And so church folks know we talk about peace that passeth all understanding, right? How do we get that? Y'all, that peace brings about joy. And we get that peace and this joy for the folks who know the Lord, we get that from the Lord. Okay. I see Danielle is on. Hey, Danielle. All right. Tasha said, I have joy in Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Teresa. Good to see you, sis. Yeah. So Teresa, thank you for dropping that in the chat. Joy shows up even when happiness can't. Okay. And y'all, I really need us to get this because I don't have to tell y'all, we don't have to go through all of it. Y'all know we live it in rough times, right? It's a whole lot of stuff going on. For Black and brown people, this can be a very fear or very traumatizing time. I want to make sure I'm using the word that really hits at the seriousness of what's happening, right? Y'all, right now, folks are out to erase our history, right? Really out to erase our existence, if we want to be honest, right? Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on. And how do you keep getting up? How do you keep going? How do you keep walking out this purpose? How do you keep blessing other folks, right? How do you keep brightening up the corner where you are with all of this hate and divisiveness and just evilness? Let's be honest, right? Happening around us. You got to have joy. You got to rest in something. So again, to my folks who, your truth might not be Jesus, you need to make sure you do have a truth. Okay. You need to make sure that you got something that you're leaning on, something that is greater than you, right? Something that is deep down inside of you that is holding you on center. Because let's be honest, all of this stuff that's happening, the idea is to knock us off center. The idea is for us to have hopelessness, for us to feel helpless. And y'all, that's not what God is about. That's not what this life is supposed to be about. This life is supposed to be about living in the fullness of what God has done for us. Y'all, God said he came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. So all of this fear, all of this scarcity, all of this evilness, y'all, that's not what God has for us. And so we got to make sure that we holding fast to our beliefs. We're holding fast to our values. We're holding fast to that deep-seated contentment, that deep-seated peace, so that we can walk out the purpose that we have. Y'all, I see my photographer on, Brandon. Hey, Brandon. And hey, Miss Karen. Good to see you. So, question for you all. This is my second question I think I'm posing. How many of you from that definition can say that you have joy? How many of you can say you have deep seated contentment and peace? Right? If that's you, just drop a me in the chat. If you're not sure, that's all right. I got some steps for you. We going to make sure that everybody has some joy, okay? But how many of you can say, yes, I have peace? Yes, I have contentment. Yes, even though my circumstances say that I shouldn't be able to, I shouldn't be up and moving around, I shouldn't be happy, I shouldn't be smiling, I shouldn't want to help other folks. I still do. Because y'all, I have this peace that I can't explain. Right. I have this contentment that is just in there and it's bubbling over, it's coming out. All right. So Miss Karen said, me most days. Absolutely. Hey, Dr. Tanya. Dr. Tanya said, me by his grace. Yes, ma'am. That's all it is grace. Yeah. Teresa said, me. Yeah. Kevin said, working on it. All right. Rhonda raised her hand. Absolutely. Okay. Brandon said, up and down with it. Y'all, I understand. Right. Listen, these times, you know how folks said we got trying times. Y'all, these times would try Job. Okay, the stuff that we're seeing and we're going through, this stuff is enough to make you want to pack it up, right? And say, just forget all this. I'm gonna just wait on Jesus to come get me, right? And we are not going to forget. He came that we might have life and we might have it more abundantly. Y'all, this is Holy Week, right? We about to go, we had Palm Sunday last Sunday. We about to go into Resurrection Sunday this weekend. Y'all, he came. He took everything on his shoulders when he didn't have to, right? He died for us and for our sins, not because of anything that he had done. All of this was for us. And so, y'all, I'm not going to allow his death, burial, and resurrection to be in vain. I'm not going to be out here living in fear. I'm not going to be out here living in less than what God has for me. Y'all, he already took care of everything. We already know the end result. Yes, we are having to walk through some things. Absolutely. Right. Y'all, we already know the end result. We already know he won. We already know he got the keys to hell, death, and everything else. We already know that. And so sometimes, right, and that's what faith is, we got to walk it out even when we don't see it. Yes, there are absolutely things going on in our world, in our even in our lives, our own personal lives, that would say there's no reason to have joy. And yet, God is still good. God is still with us. God is still faithful. God is still able. Yeah, one of my favorite things around resurrection time is the verse, and it's in Matthew. It's in a number of books, but Matthew is the one that really sticks out to me when they talk about, they went to the tomb to see, right? Like after he had gotten up, they went to see because they didn't believe he had gotten up, and the angel had rolled the stone away. An angel was sitting on the stone, and he said, "Why look for him here? He's not dead. He has risen." Right? And y'all, that rolling the stone away piece, that piece just does something to my heart. Every year I'm gonna post about it and I'm gonna talk about it because y'all, God is still rolling stones away. Jesus is still making sure that we understand that he has risen. He rolls away stones of fear. He rolls away stones of distraction. He rolls away stones of envy. He rolls away stones of evilness. He is still rolling stones away. He is still making sure that we know that he is God and above him there is no other. Okay? So even though we got a whole lot of stuff going on, yeah, we have to hold fast to, we know how this story ends. We know how all of this ends. And so we got to walk through some stuff, and we can walk through it with assurance. We can walk through it with peace. We can walk through it with joy. Okay. Rhonda said we have to remember what our ancestors went through. Listen, because they definitely went through way more than what we going through right now. Okay. And y'all, they stood and they did what they did. And I love that phrase that says, we are our ancestors' dreams. Y'all, we are living out, we are really answered prayers, right? We are living out the lives that they prayed for, the lives that they saw, right? It prophetically saw in the future. They knew they might not have had it, but they prayed for it, they worked for it, and they trusted in God that their offspring, right, and their offspring's offspring would be able to have what we have today. And so, y'all, with that right there, listen, that's enough right there for us to keep moving. That's enough right there for us to find joy. Right. Because and Rhonda, I love that you said that because as I was actually studying joy, that was one of the things that came up. Joy was actually a part of this kind of ancestral DNA. They were saying we have joy, honey, because our ancestors had joy. We have joy because folks had to go through things and they held on to their faith. They held on to their values. They held on to their love. And because of that, joy has been passed down to us. Because of that, we know how to actually be resilient. And y'all, that's a whole nother live. We'll talk about resiliency at some point on Dr. CC says, because resiliency isn't always used the right way, right? Like people want to say, like, oh, you resilient, so you can deal with anything. No, you have some resilience, but that means you've been through some stuff. And I would say, because you're resilient, you need to take special care of yourself, right? But Rhonda, back to what you were saying, our joy sometimes came or comes because our ancestors were resilient, right? They were able to walk with their heads up. They were able to still sing their songs of Zion. They were able to do those things because they also knew what the end was going to be. They also knew that even though they were going through things in the moment, God still had the last say. And that when they raised their eyes, they were going to be in heaven with him, right? So, y'all, let's talk about how we get joy in case you don't have it. First thing is we have to slow down. Okay, y'all say it with me. Slow down. Somebody drop in the chat. Slow down. First thing we got to do is slow down. Y'all, we are going and going and going. We move so much. And I'm saying we, but I'm talking about myself. Okay, I'm going to speak for me. One of the things that I figured out during recovery, and really before recovery, I'm gonna be honest, when I was talking to my surgeon about surgery, and people say, "Oh, are you afraid of surgery? Are you afraid of this? Are you afraid of that?" I said, there's some uncomfortableness around all of this. No, nobody wants to be cut on, right? But y'all, one of the things that popped up for me first was I'm gonna have to sit down. What's going to happen to my patients, right, at my job? What's going to happen to my postdocs? What's going to happen to the promises that I made to people? I told people I was going to be there for them. And y'all telling me that I'm not going to be able to do my job for 8 weeks. Y'all, I literally tried to bargain with the surgeon about my recovery time. And I can laugh about it now because now I'm on the other side of it and going through recovery. There is no way that I was going to be doing the stuff that I tried to get her to agree to. And y'all, let me tell you, make sure you have people in your life, and y'all will hear me say this often. Make sure you have people in your life who will talk good sense into you. Okay, let's say it like that. Um, I was worried about everybody else and everything else. And I was like, hey, I am used to going at a certain pace. I have obligations, I have responsibilities. And y'all, every single person in my life told me, sit down. They was like, this is non-negotiable. You gotta have this surgery. We're not gonna put the surgery off. Y'all, I was even trying to get the date changed. I'm like, maybe we can do it around December. I can just rest over Christmas. Like, let's not disrupt my life. Uh, okay. Listen, God was like, yeah, this ain't even your life to have. This the life I gave you, and you're gonna live it the way I tell you to live it. And so I had to sit down. I had to slow down. Right. Thank y'all for putting it in the chat. Yeah. See, hey, Pastor Nicole. She said I got on just in the right moment. Yeah, come on. Dr. Tanya says, say it slowly. Yes. Slow down. Y'all slow down. You can't hear God when you moving right at a high speed. You don't know what you might be missing when you move real quickly, right? Just this week, talking to one of my friends, and y'all, me and my friends, we have church whenever we get together. And we the conversation started about like psychology stuff. It ended up about God because that's how we roll. But she was saying, we have to make sure that we know what the scripture says because y'all, and this is going to be a live probably in May, if I can get my pastor to come back and talk about mental health and church. So, Pastor, if you're listening, I want you back on Dr. CC Says, okay? But one of the things we often talk about, me and my friends, we were not always taught scripture the right way. The interpretations that people have gotten from the Bible, sometimes they just hearing what other people say and they just repeating it, and it's not really sound doctrine, right? And so one of the things that me and my friend was talking about earlier this week was slowing down, even when reading scripture. You got to slow down and make sure you're reading it right. You got to slow down and listen for God to give you the interpretation. Right. So slowing down is something that we need to do in every single part of our lives. Now, y'all know I do therapy and I do family therapy a lot of the times. Y'all, one of the things that I see the most in the therapy room, people are not able to communicate with each other because they won't slow down. So one person is saying one thing, another person is not even listening for understanding. They're listening so that they can respond, and people are moving at rapid paces, right? One of the main things I do in the therapy room is have people slow down. Hold on, let's make sure we understand each other. Hold on, let's clarify. Hold on, let's talk about intention, right? Slowing down. Yeah, we have to slow down in our lives. I've had multiple people tell me, hey, God's not talking to me right now. I don't know what I did, but God's not talking to me. Is it that God is not talking, or are you not listening? Because those not the same things, right? I'm gonna say it one more time. Is it that God is not talking, or you are not listening? Right? We need to slow down, y'all. When we slow down, when we stop being in survival mode, we can then start to concentrate on the things that we need. We can concentrate on not only what our body is telling us, what our mind is telling us, what our heart is telling us, and more importantly, what Jesus is telling us. All right. Next thing, y'all, gratefulness. We got to focus on gratefulness. There's a reason for this, and I want to make sure people hear me clearly. I am not trying to be invalidating. I am not trying to say just suck it up and be happy. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you are intentional about focusing on the things that you can be grateful for, if you are purposely looking for the things that you can say, Lord, I thank you. Lord, I'm grateful. Lord, you did it and you didn't have to do it. If you are doing those things, I promise you, the gratefulness that you have, the joy that God has put on the inside of you, those things will grow. Okay? Because we know whatever it is that we give energy to, those things grow. Whatever it is we feed, right? Those things are the things that will grow. So y'all, we gotta incline our ear. We have to incline our heart, incline your eyes towards things that you can be grateful for. So y'all drop some in the chat for me that you're grateful for. All right. I want you to just sit with it for, if you already know, go ahead and drop it. If you don't, sit with it. Sit with it for about 30 seconds and think about what are some things that I am truly grateful for. And I'm going to tell y'all some of mine. Y'all, I'm grateful for life. Okay. I'm grateful for abundant life. All right. Anybody, and going back to this surgery, anybody that knows anything about surgery, there's a possibility when you go under that you won't come back. Right. Everybody knows that. Y'all, God didn't have to. He didn't have to bring me out of it. He could have said, Dr. CC, this the end of your story right here. Right. He could have said that, and y'all, I would have had a life well lived. Let me be honest. Right. There are not many regrets that I have in my life at all. So it would have been a life well lived. But he saw fit to let me get up. Y'all, he saw fit to not only wake me up, but when the surgeon came in my room the next day, she said, "Hey, so I am pleasantly surprised." And I looked at her and said, "Okay." Look, that's awesome. Why are you pleasantly surprised? She said that was easier than I thought it was going to be. She said I didn't have to do all of what I thought I was going to have to do. She said, "I'm pleasantly surprised." And I looked at her and I said, "That's God." Right? Thank God. We all gonna thank God. And she said, "Amen." Right? She's also a believer. So just my life, y'all, I'm grateful for my life. Rhonda said, "I'm grateful for health." Yeah, I'm grateful for life itself. Karen said, "Life, family, grace, and mercy." Pastor Nicole said, "Yeah, he ain't have to." Listen, y'all don't make me shout on here. It's Holy Week, okay? So I got a little extra oil this week, okay? He didn't have to. He didn't have to do it, but he did. Tasha said, "Life, increase, peace, fresh start, new beginnings, connect." Come on, sis. You better be grateful. Yeah, Ebony said, "Life, I don't look like what I've been through." Yes, ma'am. And everybody on here might not know Ebony, but I know Ebony. And I'm going to tell you, Ebony, I'm going to shout with you right there. Okay. Because you absolutely don't look like what you've been through. Right. And God got you here for a reason. Y'all, God got all us here for a reason. Okay. Sora Pam said, "Grateful for health, mind, body, and soul." Teresa said, "My relationship with God, without the knowing and relationship, I never would have made it." Come on, y'all. Y'all better go on and preach. Okay. Look, preach in the comments. All right. Yeah. Y'all listen. When you are intentionally grateful, you can't help but have joy. When you think about all the things that God has done for you that He didn't have to do, okay? He didn't have to do any of this, right? We talk about life, we talk about health, strength, grace, mercy, right? New beginnings. Y'all, He didn't have to do none of that. He didn't have to, but He did. And even if you don't have it for yourself, y'all read the comments, okay? If God has done it for somebody else, if He is doing it for somebody else, He'll do it for you too. All right. So sometimes, y'all, I'm grateful, not even for my stuff, I'm grateful for my friends' stuff. I'm grateful to see my babies being blessed, y'all. And when I said my babies, that could be my patients. That could also be my niece, nephew, and my 5 godchildren. It babies just means the kids in my life. Okay. I can also be grateful for what He's doing for my family. I can be grateful for the blessings I see He do for strangers that folks I don't even know. Y'all, I can be grateful about that too. Because as my best friend Tristan would say, if He bless my neighbor, that means He on my street. Okay. So y'all, God is still in the blessing business. Let's put a pin right there. God is still in the blessing business. It does not matter what is going on around us. I don't care what it's telling you. I don't care what Fox News says. I don't care what MNB, whatever it is, MSNBC. I don't care what all of that is saying. God is still in the blessing business. Okay. The fact that we woke up this morning, the fact that somebody didn't have to pull a sheet over us and call a time of death, y'all, He's still in the blessing business. He is still rolling stones away. All right. I'm gonna just keep coming back to that. He's still rolling stones away. So when we are grateful, when we are intentionally focusing on, for us believers on here, the goodness of God, right? Then we are going to have that joy. We're going to have peace. We're going to have that deep contentment, right? That the description talked about. And so, y'all, number 3, we kind of already got number 3 in here, but how do we have joy? Trust God. All right, it's real simple. I know y'all done heard people say that forever, but it's the truth. Trust God, right? And again, for folks on here, that might not be your truth, whatever your higher power is, trust in that. But for the Christians on here, trust God. Y'all, when we give stuff over to God, when we truly let Him handle it, when we give it to Him and don't take it back, okay? Because I don't know about y'all, I'm gonna speak for me. Sometimes I take stuff back. I be trying, I'm like, well, Lord, you got enough to do. I'm gonna take that off your plate. Yeah, I'm sure he'd be chuckling and shaking his head at me, right? I'm sure I'd be really bothering him sometimes because I know better, and I will still do it. Now I will tell y'all, the recovery helped me with that. God gave me, I feel, multiple opportunities during recovery to give things over to Him and leave it there. And so, y'all, I did a real good job toward the end, right? When at the beginning I was fumbling a little bit, but toward the end of recovery, I was doing a real good job of being like, "Ooh, that ain't mine. This don't. God didn't tell me to do this. This don't belong to me. That's not my assignment." Yeah. And so my bestie that's on here, Tasha, we talk often about everything is not our assignment. And me and Tasha have been best friends since we were 5 years old. Okay. We have very similar hearts. We were raised by the same folks, right? My mama is her mama is my mama, right? Like we raised by the same people. So we both identify that we have these hearts to give and to help. And God has given us the ability to solve things pretty quickly, right? So very early on, I found, and Tasha can agree, that people would come to us to fix things. All right. And I'm sure a lot of y'all on here are the same way, right? Folks will come to you to fix things. Folks will come to you to unload things onto you to make themselves lighter. And no judgment, not talking about that. They're coming to places and to people that they know they can get help from, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. At some point, though, y'all, we have to figure out what's our assignment and what's not. Okay. Everybody and everything is not our assignment. Just because we can help with it, it does not mean that we should. And so, one practice that me and my friends have started to implement is having God set the agenda for the day. Okay. And y'all tell me if y'all have ever thought about doing that. Setting the agenda, having God set your agenda for the day. Now I know, we said God is the head of our life, He's Lord over our lives. And a lot of us will trust Him with the big stuff, but the little stuff, we be like, God, we got that, like what I'm gonna eat and what I'm gonna do. We got that. Mm-mm. Y'all, one thing I learned through this recovery, every action, everything, every decision, I need to consult with the Father. Okay. Because again, y'all heard me say it earlier, this life ain't mine, no way. The life I have is the life He gave me. The purpose I have, y'all, this been coming up all week. The purpose that we have, our purpose was present before we were. When God said He knew us before we was formed in our mother's womb, y'all, the purpose that He had for us, the assignments that He wanted us to carry out, y'all, that stuff was present before we were even here. Before we were even born, that stuff was already decided. So if the purpose was there, if the assignments were there, one, and this a whole nother live, y'all, but I want to stop real quick. You already got everything you need to carry out your purpose. If God knew what the purpose was He was giving you before you were even formed in your mother's womb, He gave you everything you needed. Y'all, we have to walk in it. And a lot of times we get distracted because we are picking up assignments and picking up people that God didn't give to us. Okay, just let that sit. All right. Picking up assignments and picking up people that don't belong to us. And so now I ask God, what's on the agenda for today? I know the stuff that I think we gonna do, but you tell me, you help me to figure out what are the things that I'm supposed to be doing today, right? Every situation, everything, y'all, we need to make sure we consulting with the Father. We talking to the Father, okay? Because again, it's way more about what the Father got for us than what we got. And if we are honest with ourselves, we want what God has for us over what even we want for ourselves. Y'all, he can do it better than we ever could. He the way God will work it out, he's going to work it out better than we could even imagine. All right. Me and Tasha often say, God be playing chess and we be playing checkers. And y'all, that's because we see finite. We see just what's in front of us, just maybe a little bit ahead of us, right? If we really being intentional, you can figure out just a little bit in front of you. God sees it all. And so if something is not working out, I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but if something is not working out, if a door that you thought was going to open didn't open, if a yes you thought you were going to get is actually a no, listen, thank God for that. Okay. If a relationship that you thought was going to be your everything turned out not to be nothing, just thank God that you saw it. Okay. Because again, what he has for us is better than anything that we can ever come up with. And so I'm going to consult with the Father because I want what he has for me. I want him to figure it out and work it out. It's his anyway. So y'all trust God so that you can walk in the assurance. All right. Yeah. Now, we talked about how we get joy. Let's talk about how we maintain joy. Once you have it, once you realize that you got it, how can you maintain your joy? Okay? Couple of things. One, you got to hold space and evaluate. So hold space and evaluate. And what I mean by that is you have to continue to slow down, continue to evaluate what's going on in your life and what's going on around you. Okay. And you have to create some space for that, right? You got to make sure that you have the space to sit and listen to God. You got to have space to study, right? You got to have space to commune with Him. You got to have space to take care of yourself. Y'all, I recently did a self-care workshop for Black women, and it was everything. It was such a good time. And one of the things that came up in there was how much we do as Black women, and that can apply to other groups as well, right? Black men, white women, white men. It can apply to a lot of different people, but Black women. I'm talking to y'all for a minute. Y'all, we do so much. We add so much into our days. We add so much into our schedules. We add so much physically and like figuratively as well, right? That we don't leave a lot of space to care for self. We don't leave a lot of space to listen and sit with God and let God pour back into us, right? If y'all think about all of the different uh, hats you wear, all of the different roles you play, all of the different responsibilities you have, yeah, we pour out a lot. We pour out a lot. We pour out at work. We pour out at home. We pour out with friends. We pour out with families, with our children. We pour out a lot. You have to create space so that you can be poured back into. Yeah, Ebony said, yes, it was awesome. Thank you, Ebony. I enjoyed y'all hopefully as much as y'all enjoyed me. Okay. But y'all, we gotta create that space, right? Hold space for yourself. Hold space so you can evaluate what's going on with you. So again, that survival mode that a lot of people operate in, where we're going, 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 we putting out fires all the time, we checking stuff off our list, right? We making sure that we getting stuff done, right? We in this kind of society where we get stuff done. Y'all, sometimes we need to just be. We need to stop doing so much and learn how to be. Yeah, that was one thing that happened during this recovery for me. And it was one thing that I was concerned about. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all this downtime? You telling me I can't do therapy. You telling me I can't even do supervision. I can't get on the lives and do Dr. CC says. I'm not going to be up and out of the house too much. I'm not even really going to be walking around a lot, enough to make sure I'm healing, but not as much as I would have been doing. So I'm not exercising. What am I going to be doing? And multiple people in my life said to me, you have to learn how to be. And y'all, that was one of the best things that that I got out of this recovery, besides my, extra time with God and hearing him clearly and learning how to be still. Y'all, one of the things I got was learning how to be, learning how to hold space for myself, learning how to check in with myself. And y'all, listen, I'm a therapist. I work with people on stuff like this all the time, right? But when you are intentionally doing it, when you have no choice, and so you make up in your mind, okay, I'm gonna make the best of this, and I'm gonna get as much as I can get out of this. When you do those things, it takes you to another level. Okay. Yeah, Ebony, hashtag just be. So hold space for yourself, right? Create space, evaluate what's going on. And then, y'all, number two, get rid of joy stealing things and people. Okay. So we know we got joy. We know it's deep seated. Y'all, there are people who will serve to uproot that if they are allowed. Okay. So just like y'all, my shirt, if you can't see it, it says addicted to peace, right? There are people and things that will disturb your peace. Are people and things that will try to disturb your joy. All right. Make sure that you are not giving energy to joy stealing things and to joy stealing people. And one way you do that, y'all know my favorite thing, boundaries. All right. Somebody drop boundaries in the chat. Y'all know I love some good boundaries. Okay. And boundaries would be, what are the things that you are putting between you and these joy stealing things or these joy stealing people? Are you saying no when you need to say no? Are you checking in with yourself and seeing if you have capacity for things? Going back to what we said a minute ago, are you actually asking God, is this part of my assignment? Are these folks that I'm supposed to be connected to? Are these people I'm supposed to be helping? Is this a problem that you want me to fix? Right? Like making sure we're checking in to see what capacity, and also, is this my assignment? Yeah. Hey, Latanya, thanks for being on. So yeah, y'all, look, we gotta have some boundaries. We gotta make sure that we, as Tasha loves to say, we have to guard our ear gates. We have to guard our eye gates. That's another way to make sure that you are getting rid of joy stealing things and joy stealing people. So y'all, for me right now, and I'm sure a lot of you are on here the same way. For me, I am not watching a lot of news. Okay. I'm just not. I'm just not. The news is not helpful for me. If I want to be updated, I will read articles. Okay. But actually watching certain images, hearing certain people's voices, it vexes my spirit, and so I just won't do it. And it's interesting because we talk a lot at work and in different circles about how are we protecting our peace, right? How are we making sure that we have balance? And when I say to people like, "Hey, I'm not really watching the news," right? So and I'm not going to engage with you in that conversation for too long. People are like, "Oh, but how are you going to be informed?" I'm not. And that's my choice, right? And as Auntie Tabba said, that's my business. And so make sure that you're not letting people try to push you into what they think you should be doing right now. Okay. Make sure you're not allowing folks to push you into how informed they think you should be. Check in with yourself. That's why you got to hold that space. Check in with yourself and see how much capacity you have. And then, based off of that and based off of what God is telling you, then you move accordingly. Don't let folks make you feel like, oh, I got to listen. I need to know every executive order that's happening. Y'all, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. Okay. You have to make sure that you hold on to your joy. You have to make sure that you don't allow circumstances, people, things in your environment to knock you off center. Okay. Rhonda said 47 gives me anxiety. I understand. I understand. And so Rhonda, I will say I think that that is part of the goal, right? Is to kind of produce fear and anxiety. And so because we know somebody who is greater than any official, any king, anything, right? We're not going to be moved off center. Right now, we are going to ask God to help us do the things that He would have us do. Y'all heard me say the phrase earlier: brighten up the corner where you are. Right. So walk out your purpose, walk out your assignments, do those things with excellence, do those things with joy. Right. Do those things with all that God has given you. We're going to do that. Right. What we're not going to do is live in fear. What we're not going to do is have a scarcity mindset. What we're not going to do is be picking up everything and everybody and shouldering all of that negative energy. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That's not what God has for us. That's not what He would want for us. Yeah. So Pam said, peace be still. Yeah, God keeps me busy. Yeah. And as long as you busy with the stuff God has you doing, then you all right. That's what we ought to be doing. So y'all, that is our discussion on joy tonight. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope that something has resonated with you. All right. If you don't feel like you have joy, then let's make sure that we tap in, right? So, the way that we make sure we get it, we're going to slow down. Right, we're going to give ourselves space. We're going to be present. We are going to intentionally focus on gratefulness, the things that we can be grateful for. And we are going to trust God. We're going to hand it all over to Him, give Him everything, and He's going to tell us what to do next, right? Every step of the way, He's going to be right there. And once you tap into that joy, or for my folks who already have joy, we got to maintain it. So we're going to hold space. We're going to evaluate what's going on in us, right? And around us. And then we're going to get rid of any joy stealing things and joy stealing people. All right. So, y'all, that's what I got. Thank you all so much for being here. We will have another Dr. CC Says in 2 weeks. So I know y'all are probably used to my weeklies. We are going to be moving to every 2 weeks, right? So twice a month, I'm going to get on and we're going to talk about topics. And y'all, of course, I got some different events coming up. Y'all be on the lookout for that. If you are not on my newsletter, right? If you are not a part of the newsletter, because they get everything before everybody else gets it, make sure that you sign up for the newsletter. So I'm actually going to post in the chat my website. And so that's www.heartandsoulmh.com. So here, I'm going to show it on the screen too. www.heartandsoulmh.com. Y'all go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, because all of my events and everything will come through there first before it hits social media. All right. All right, let me see. I'm gonna read a couple of comments real quick. So Pam said, "Joy, Jesus, others, and you." Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Sarah Pam. Pastor Nicole said, "I was tired and preparing for bed. Now I'm in my study, going to do a little reading and journaling." I love it. I love it. Let's go and get that time in. And Pastor, listen, you bless me all the time. Anytime I come by a video of you preaching or talking, you blessing me. So as my old pastor back at home would say, bless you. All right. All right. So, y'all, that is it for tonight. Y'all be blessed. Hold on to your joy. All right. Lean into love. That's a phrase that's been in my heart for the last couple of days. Lean into love, y'all, and hold on to joy. All right. And I promise y'all, God is going to show up and He's going to show out every single time. He has done it multiple times for me, multiple times. And I know He'll do it for you. All right. Y'all be blessed.